Hi, this is Debbie West with TESOL France, and I'm here with Bob Dignen.
Hi.
Hi, so how are you doing since your big release of your new book?
Yeah, good, very happy. I think sales are going well. I think it captures a certain spirit in the industry to move a bit beyond language teaching, to focus more on international communication coaching. And I think that's an aspiration, I think, for many business English trainers, and now finally some materials for them.
And how did you personally get to this point?
I think through York Associates. I have an enormous debt of gratitude to people like Jeremy Comfort, Nick Brieger, Derek Utley, who really started this whole journey for me 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I'm staying in a hotel just around the corner, Hotel St. Charles, where I did my first intercultural training course 16 years ago.
Wow.
So it has very pleasant memories to be here.
Oh, that's great. Well, I've been really impressed each time I hear you, and having studied a little bit about cross-cultural communication, I've been intrigued as to how to interconnect it with language teaching. What would you say is the biggest challenge for a language teacher in terms of teaching outside of their country?
You mean in terms of...
Because sometimes we can teach we can teach English in our own country, which is not exactly the same. There are some aspects of intercultural communication, but I think there's even a different challenge when we ourselves are in a country that is not our own, teaching a language that's ours but not theirs.
Well, I was reflecting on it last night. I think language teachers have an enormous opportunity to interface with a very wide range of business professionals doing many different jobs in many different contexts. And to be honest, the way I view my client, that they are a book. They are an enormous resource for me to learn about the world of business, about the real challenges of communicating internationally. So I think in a sense language trainers are lucky. They don't really have a challenge. They have the resource to develop in front of them every day in the classroom, one-to-one or with the group. They just need to ask the right questions, focus sometimes a little bit less on the language accuracy side of things, and just ask questions which really open up how do their clients achieve success internationally. And as the client tells you, you can give them some language to reflect about that, but you also learn as a professional. And slowly you become almost a portal of all this knowledge of international success. And then you become a real added value to your client, which goes way, way beyond language.
Yes, but sometimes there are challenges when you have a new university student who's just 18 and you need to speak about intercultural communication, and they haven't the foggiest. And they have sometimes a defensive mode because they somehow feel that you're attacking their Frenchness or wherever they're from. How would you say how would you suggest dealing with that?
Well, two things. Firstly, you said you picked up on them being inexperienced. You said they haven't the foggiest. Well, there's not necessarily a correlation between intercultural competence and experience in business. You can be highly experienced and travel all over the world, but be relatively culturally incompetent. You've just been successful because you have the power and the authority to tell people what to do. So the university student may have the kind of basic attitudes, the basic human skills, which will equip them to be far more successful than many who are currently in position. So that's one message I give quite strongly. A lack of business experience doesn't mean a lack of intercultural competence generally.
But sometimes going over that first hump, so that they understand that it's not a matter of you being not like them, but them actually knowing that there are these differences that make the communication different, the comprehension different, the misunderstandings arise.
Yeah, well, the other thing that you picked up on was the defensiveness. And of course, defensiveness is unlikely to get you very far working internationally. That's a very human phenomenon that when we're introduced with a new idea, it's a default reaction. We tend to react negatively. And I point that out to people when it happens in many, many different contexts. And that, in fact, is a door opener. Because people are suddenly aware, oh yeah, I did that. I was defensive about that. In fact, that means actually I do have something to learn. So in fact, I love it when people are defensive or when they're aggressive to me, because that is the most fundamental experiential learning activity, to point back what has happened inside them and say, hey, look, that's what needs to change. So people can be as aggressive as they want. I'm quite happy with that.
And how have you personally been able to deal that aspect of yourself? Because we actually need to go through that process in order to know how to step back from it.
Well, there's a certain kind of degree of humility required, and I could say, I can say, being engaged in this area professionally, it has enriched me. It has changed me quite a great deal. I think it has slowed me down, made me listen much better than I used to when I first joined my York Associates. You only had to ask Jeremy or Nick or Steve. They'll tell me they had to deal with a rather impetuous young guy. But still, these kinds of issues, patience, tolerance, listening skills, everybody still struggles with these, particularly in a private environment when the emotions are much stronger. So this is I think this is a lifelong process of somehow unlearning all the habits and assumptions, the bad habits and assumptions that we have. And it's not something that as a coach we should stand in front of people and say we are expert. We have a knowledge, expertise, but our job is not to be a model necessarily. Our job is to help the individual to develop.
Is there any last suggestion or comment that you'd like to make to our TESOL France audience?
Yeah, well, of course, I would say go and buy the book, Communicating Across Cultures, the DVD, but I'm passionate about it. I think it is a very useful resource, and I think it's very easy to teach. I think it has the potential to enable you to produce hugely energetic and inspiring classroom experiences. And it has for me, so I don't see why others can't do it too.
Great. Thank you very much. This is Debbie West for TESOL France.